And Chag Pesach Sameach, happy Passover to everyone. Do you know April is the month of springtime and Passover? 2,000 years ago, our rabbis recognized this, and one can find in the Passover Seder a celebration both of the coming of spring and of the freedom connected with the historical narrative. One example of the coming of spring is to be found in the eating of parsley and celery. These foods symbolize our joy in the fact that the earth is once again waking up. I've always felt that in the waking up of the earth, there is an accompaniment by the waking up of the Jewish people in the springtime. Our historical waking up is that we are waking up to the realization of just how precious it is to be Jewish and how much we value our freedom to practice our religion. This year I've been thinking about what Passover means to me. And here are a few of my thoughts. First, Passover has this incredibly powerful historical narrative of liberation. And even though I really feel that I am free, I look around me and at so many of us in our country and our world who seem to feel as though they are being held within the chains of slavery. Some of the times the feeling of being in slavery arises because of the bias of others. And so on Passover, I commit myself to the eradication of bias, bigotry, and racism, and to the acceptance and inclusion with a sense of love of all of God's creatures. This year, in particular in North Carolina, I find myself dedicated to making sure that the state does not send its LGBT citizens, as it were, back to Egypt. Most of you know that same-sex marriage is already against the law in North Carolina. By defining marriage as, quote, the only domestic legal union that shall be valid or recognized in the state, unquote, the legal consequences could extend to the denial of rights not only to LGBT couples, but to couples that are cohabiting heterosexual couples and their children. Historically, it is worth noting that the slippery slope towards the death of 6 million Jews, of which 1.5 million were children, began with the Nuremberg laws in 1935, which denied the Jewish people their civil rights and outlawed all marriages between Jews and Aryans. The lesson is that all too often, discrimination against one leads to additional discrimination. This amendment is not about marriage, but about discrimination in depriving a group of citizens of equal protection, which is guaranteed by the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution. Believing as I do that all human beings are created in the divine image has led me to conclude that any discrimination against any individual is inconsistent with my belief, for the image of God is present in each and every one of us. As of this week, the week prior to Passover, I am delighted to report that the boards of trust of Temple Emanuel, Beth David Synagogue, and the Greensboro Jewish Federation, each board separately and unanimously, took a position in opposition to Amendment 1. Extraordinary. Jews rarely agree on anything. But I'm so proud of our community. We did this because as Jews, we know all too well the terrible costs of writing discrimination into our laws. I also feel that slavery can be of an economic sort. When poverty exists, when there are great inequalities in economic prosperity or in the education of children, this causes people to feel enslaved by forces beyond their control. When people are jobless or homeless, a similar feeling of slavery arises. Seen this way, there are indeed remnants of slavery in our country. And therefore, on this Passover, I recommit myself to the basic premise that as long as others around me are the victims of this type of economic slavery and economic abuse, my own freedom is not complete. Finally, I've been thinking this year about what are the things that enslave me. In this respect, I mean, what are the things that prevent me from being the sort of person and Jew that I would like to be, and I believe that God means for me to be? What are the excuses that I give that keep me enslaved to non-productive behaviors? What are the challenges that I have to overcome to overcome my excuses, and to become a creative, loving, caring, and just person, that person that I would like to be. So even if I have a sense of my own freedom, I also realize that there are remnants of slavery that keep me back. May this Passover be one where I remove the shackles of the remnants and participate in my personal liberation from my own Egypt. To all of you, and on behalf of all of us here at Temple Emanuel, a Chag Pesach Sameach, a happy Passover. May the blessings of peace and security descend on us, on all of the people of Israel, and on all the world. Chag Sameach.